Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Am I able
Good
to be
morning,
heard?
sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, very good morning. Are you hearing me? Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yeah. So Chanakya is there right now. I think so. So congratulations for all those award winners for the essays that day. You were there here. Those were nice. And we have taken the last class regarding the complications of CSOM. And the previous class of mine was about the, as you know, about that pure tone audiometry and impedance audiometry. Yes or no? Hello. So, hello.
yes, sir.
Yeah. Please try to answer in the middle because we feel only your person hears or not. So at the end of the day, hearing is not about hearing some sound. It is about understanding the speech and telling the answer to whatever question is put. So whether you are hearing or not is tested by this, is it or not? So for that reason, there are different types of audiometries like subjective audiometries, objective audiometries. So subjective audiometries is what you have to concentrate when patient has to concentrate and give the answer. But the objective ones, we can take up the answer for the concentration of the impedance audiometry. Whereas here in this particular assessment of the patient with hearing loss, whether he has got text hearing loss, sensory hearing loss, conductive hearing loss. Sensory neural hearing loss and conductive hearing loss. In sensory neural hearing loss, there is sensory part that is the cochlea and conductive part that is the nerve. So as you know, there are two components of it. To understand every part of the auditory system, we have got different types of tests. These are called as battery of tests. So one test will not be able to tell you what is the problem. Many tests will be there. They'll be telling you what is the problem, and based on that only, we have to go for arrive at the diagnosis. For example, if you take something like cochlear pathology, wherein you have got sensory neural hearing loss. Cochlear part is the sensory part, and the neural part is the particular retrocochlear part. So cochlear and retrocochlear. So when you have got cochlear pathology, you have got something called as a recruitment. Recruitment is one test which is done for cochlear pathology. It tells us about the cochlear pathology. There is one more test called as the CC, short increment sensitivity index. That is also a cochlear pathology test. Whereas in retrocochlear pathology, so retrocochlear pathology, you have got some example like acoustic neuroma or auditory neuropathy. Auditory neuropathy. So when you have got a lesion beyond the spiral ganglion, you can go for it as a retrocochlear pathology, wherein you can have it something like a retrocochlear pathology like acoustic neuroma or auditory neuropathy. These two are examples of the retrocochlear pathology. So you go for something called as a BERA, so brainstem evoked response audiometry. Okay, when you have got to see the cochlea only, there is something called as evoked response audiometry called as electrocochleography. So electrocochleography is one type of evoked audiometry for cochlea. Brainstem evoked response audiometry is one type for this particular retrocochlear pathology. There is one more test called as short increment sensitivity index (CC). So the name itself says CCC. So you say sensitivity index short increments. It is for the cochlear pathology. CCC cochlear pathology. There is one more test called as threshold tone decay. Tone decay test. Threshold tone decay test. So threshold. So easily damaged nerve. Damaged nerve has to have a higher threshold, something like that. You remember like that. So, like Vagensky test, we are going to deal in the particular PowerPoint. The threshold tone decay test is for the retrocochlear pathology. So, threshold tone decay test, BERA for retrocochlear pathology, CC, and also your other recruitment is for the cochlear pathology. And along with that, there are many other things like autoacoustic emissions, okay, and ASSR, so auditory steady state response. Autoacoustic emissions are the emissions coming from the outer hair cells, which are picked up reversely from the body. So sounds that are coming from the outer hair cells, they are called as Kemp echoes. So So what are the different types of tests we are going to deal now is about number one, Puton audiometry over, number two, impedance audiometry over, number three is going to be speech audiometry. What is this speech audiometry actually? Speech audiometry, when you are giving sound, whether they are hearing or not, it is okay. But when you are talking, they should be understanding. That is what tested in speech audiometry. So speech discrimination score, speech reception threshold, PB max. These are all things that are there here. And next one is about, as I told you, about the BERA, brainstem evoked response audiometry. Next one is about the electrocochleography. Next one is about ASSR. ASSR. I'm just telling the names, just don't get confused much. ASSR, auditory steady state response. Okay. And next one is recruitment test. Okay. Recruitment test. Okay. Alternate binaural loudness balance test. Recruitment is tested by alternate binaural loudness balance test. Recruitment test. Okay. So that is done by the Fowler. The scientist name is Fowler's alternate binaural loudness balance test. And you are going to do other test called as short increment sensitivity index, CC, for a cochlear pathology. Short increment sensitivity index, CC is for a cochlear pathology. In the same way, you are going to do a threshold tone decay test for retrocochlear pathology. Retrocochlear pathology. And then you have got the BERA, as I already told you. Then you have got the auditory steady state response. So these are all the different tests that we are going to see in the second part of this audiology. So if you take speech audiometry, it is a subjective test to assess neural type of lesion. So you take sensory neural hearing loss, you have got neural type of lesion. So this is a neural type of lesion. This is a sensory type of lesion. This is a cochlea. Okay, this is the nerve that is formed from spiral ganglion. It is going to form a cochlear nerve. Is it or not? So imagine this is the sensory part. This is the neural part. For neural type of deafness, you can go for the speech audiometry. The reception and discrimination of speech. When I say pen, you should understand as pen, not as pin. So you should be having that idea. And reception, whether you are able to hear or not. What are speech frequencies? 500, 1000 and 2000. Two parameters are tested like SRT and SDS. I'm not going to details of this PowerPoint. Why? Because this is a higher level PowerPoint. I'll just go to the, what are the concepts that are to be understood. Speech reception threshold. Okay, speech reception threshold. So in this, spondy words are used. Speech discrimination score. Speech discrimination score. So the phonetically balanced words are used. Spondy words and phonetically balanced words. Spondy words is with like two stressful words like football, baseball, BMC student. So those are spondy words. Okay, as you know. And the speech discrimination score is by means of phonetically balanced words. PBW. Phonetically balanced words. What are they? You should be having something like a pin, sin, student, okay, gun, etc., single words. Wherein you give phonetically balanced words and then you take a percentage of it. So SRT is the minimum intensity. If you say 6 words, at least 50% are repeated. They are delivered to each ear separately, like a playground. They are called as spondy words. Spondy words. A group of 6 spondy words is presented as 25 decibels above the pure tone. So 6 words are given, out of which 3 should be understood and then to be repeated by the patient. So 25 decibels above the threshold. I told you how do you calculate the threshold. Pure tone audiometry is done. So you have to calculate for 500, 1000, 2000. The air connection, how much ever is there? 500 it is 25, to 1000 is 30, and 2000 it is 30. For example, 30 plus 30 plus 25 is 60 plus 25 by 3. So almost nearly 27.5. Like you should calculate. So above 27.5, you should add 25, and then you give these words and then see whether they are repeating or not. That is a speech reception threshold. So the interpretation is normal or conductive hearing loss. The speech reception threshold should be nearer to 10 decibel of pure tone threshold. You have already done the pure tone audiometry. It should be within 10 decibels of the pure tone threshold. So that should be the normal or conductive hearing loss. In narrow deafness, it is higher than pure tone threshold. In narrow deafness, that is neural deafness. This is sensory deafness. This is neural deafness, which is higher than pure tone threshold. Speech discrimination score. What is speech discrimination score? It is a percentage of correctly identified words when phonetically balanced words are presented to the patients. So phonetically balanced words like pin, sin, day, bus, etc. 50 words are given. It is given 35 decibels above the speech reception threshold. Speech discrimination score is a calculated percentage, like number of words. For example, into 100, 50 words are given. For example, is able to identify 40 words, and into 2 is 80. So normal conductive hearing loss, it is 90% of the people, 90% of the words are repeated. Narrow deafness, the score is considerably low. So they are able to hear, but they are not able to understand all the words in narrow deafness. This is the narrow deafness. This is the sensory deafness. Okay, sensory is cochlear, nerve is neural. Okay, retrocochlear. Nerve is called as retrocochlear. I hope you are able to understand. Based on this, if the person is able to understand out of 50 words in that about 35 decibels of his hearing, if he is able to understand 90 to 100% is normal, 76 to 88 is slight difficulty, 60 to 74 is moderate difficulty, 40 to 58 is poor difficulty, and less than 40 is very poor. So why you should have all these things? So to give a hearing aid, there is no point in hearing sounds. He has to understand the speech. That is the hearing aid use. Okay. So if he's having higher score, then it is better. Speech discrimination score is good, then he can be given a hearing aid. As simple as that. What is PB max? So phonetically balanced words are scored with several levels of speech intensity. So with every intensity, you calculate the score of the this phonetically balanced words. It is helpful to set the volume of hearing aids. PB max for volume of hearing aids. What is rollover ratio? There is one word called as rollover ratio. Rollover ratio is PB maximum minus minimum by PB maximum. So this is how it is helpful. Rollover ratio will be helpful. There is something called as rollover phenomenon. Rollover phenomenon is there, something which is there in retrocochlear pathology. I'll tell you what is going to happen. So in cochlear or sensory lesions, the rollover ratio is less than 0.4. In neural lesions, rollover ratio is more than 0.5. Why? Because more than 0.5. So more than 0.5. So in cochlear lesions, it is less than 0.4. Neural lesions is more than 0.5 because of this ratio, PB max minus PB minimum. So PB max, what is the PB max? Phonetically balanced word maximum and phonetically balanced word minimum. If you take a ratio, so neural lesions have got 0.45. What is rollover phenomenon? Rollover phenomenon is seen in what? Retrocochlear pathology. This is the retrocochlear pathology. So at 60 decibel sound, when you are increasing the number of words, it takes a peak and then it is falling down. So this is called as retrocochlear pathology. What is this? Rollover phenomenon seen in the retrocochlear pathology. Whereas in cochlear pathology, the patient needs some amount of higher sound only. So this is 65, here it is 50. Whereas at one point of time, the words are taking a percentage. 60%, at 60% the curve is getting flattened. So cochlear pathology, there is a plateau. In normal person, as you could see, almost 100% of the words are repeated at 20 decibel itself. For example, I said normal hearing is 25 decibels. At this 25 decibels itself, 100% of the words are repeated. In conductive deafness, at 40 decibels, all the words are repeated. So that means the conductive deafness patient can understand the words, but at a higher intensity. Okay. Cochlear pathology, he is able to understand less number of words, but at a higher intensity than this conductive deafness. Retrocochlear pathology is able to understand only 40% of the words, but it is falling down like a rollover curve. So plateau is seen in cochlear, rollover curve is seen in retrocochlear pathology. So this is a speech audiogram, normal conductive deafness, cochlear deafness, retrocochlear rollover phenomenon. Uses of speech audiometry differentiate organic from functional. Some people, they try to malinger, they want to have take a benefit from the government that they are deaf, but the gap between the normal pure tone and then this speech audiometry, if it is more than 10 decibels, you can say that he is acting. No doubt he is acting. So fitting a hearing aid, it is useful for cochlear and retrocochlear, it will be helpful. Assessment of degree and type of hearing loss, and examination of word recognizing abilities, examination of discomfort or tolerance to speech stimuli. All the types of speech things. And it also correlates with the average of pure tone audiometry. Is very important. So recruitment is one phenomenon as I told you. So speech audiometry is over. One part is over. Recruitment is the next one, which is seen in what? Recruitment is seen in cochlear pathology. Everybody write down here. Recruitment, cochlear pathology. This is the cochlea. This is the nerve. Okay. This is the cochlea and this is the nerve. R is not for R. Recruitment is not seen for retrocochlear pathology. Recruitment is seen for cochlear pathology. Example, Meniere's disease. So it is coined by Fowler. What is recruitment? Abnormal growth of loudness. Abnormal growth of loudness or non-linear growth of loudness. you take cochlear pathology. So because of the cochlear fibers that are being fired irregularly for till 60 decibels, they are not listening. Once it goes to 80 decibels, they are listening more than the normal person. So they are listening more than the till then they were like deaf. It's like a hero of a Telugu movie. He takes 10 beatings, and but once the heroine is touched, he suddenly gets up. He suddenly gets up and hits all the villains. So it is like something like that. So he gets up and then hits all the villains with a lot of energy. So that is what is he is recruited. It means. So cochlear pathology, they go non-linearly, and at a higher sound they go non-linearly. So that is what is recruitment. But unfortunately, they are poor candidates for hearing aids. So if recruitment is there, you give hearing aid, he cannot hear loud sounds, he will not tolerate. What are the tests for it? Alternate binaural loudness balance test, short increment sensitivity index, and MEDS recruitment test. Tests for recruitment are ABLB, Fowler's alternate binaural loudness balance test, short increment sensitivity index, and MEDS recruitment test. These are the three tests that are being done. Alternate binaural loudness balance test for recruitment. Fowler described. FRIDS computer-based test is done. Procedure is for unilateral pathology. Frequency used is 1000 Hz. So both ears above this frequency is ascertained. Hearing threshold is ascertained, and you put the worst ear is 20 decibel above the hearing threshold. Better ear is at the hearing threshold. So normal, for example, right ear is normal. It is at a hearing threshold. You will set the hearing sound, and worst ear, for example, left ear, you test it at 20 decibel above. So what is given in this particular ABLB? ABLB, the result is a ladder gram. Ladder gram. Don't remember all those things, not needed. Ladder gram is what is required. So this is what is ladder gram. So initially, the left ear I could hear, right ear I could hear with 0 decibels. The left ear there is 40 decibels. But when the sound is increased, at 90 decibel they both became equally heard. So that is what is recruitment. Initially there was a gap of 40 decibels. This is looking like a ladder, is it or not? So that is why it is called as ladder gram. So initially the hero will be losing at 40 decibels. Later on he is equal to the villain. So 90 decibels. As you could simply understand like that. This is called as recruitment. So there can be different types like absence of recruitment, complete recruitment. Complete recruitment can be cochlear pathology. Absence of recruitment can be normal other than cochlear pathology. Partial recruitment. So initially there is there, later it becomes, but never becomes zero. Loudness reversal. For example, the growth in the loudness of the worst ear is slower than the better ear. So this is called as decruitment, de-recruitment. This is the opposite of the recruitment. So you not remember all these things. Recruitment, cochlear pathology, leadergram, Fowler's alternate binaural loudness balance test. At higher intensities, both think equally, both listen equally. So this is like a recruiting here, as you could see over here, complete recruitment in cochlear pathology. Just remember, take a photograph of this. Incomplete recruitment, so now or no recruitment, the gap is being maintained, you see. So for example, this is the hero, this is the villain, the gap is being maintained. And this is a sad part. In a pathos movie, the hero dies, is it or not? So the gap is being maintained. But here, at this point, normal, which is normal, but abnormal growth of loudness wherein the hero gets up and hits all the villains, wherein he will become equal at higher, something like that you can understand. So de-recruitment, it is opposite of that, which is happening in the particular year. So limitations of recruitment is cochlear pathology, a substantial difference should be there. Suitable only for unilateral deafness. So unilateral deafness, it is useful. So monaural loudness balance test is one more, which is helpful in case of any problem with ABLB. So if ABLB is not working out, you go for monaural loudness balance test. So CC, so recruitment over, that is alternate binaural loudness balance test. So previously we have dealt about the monaural loudness balance test. Previously it was the binaural loudness balance test. This is the monaural loudness balance test. Now it is CC. One more test called as short increment sensitivity index. So cochlea pathology, it can detect the minute increments in sensitivity than retrocochlear pathology. So patient with cochlear lesion distinguishes smaller changes in intensity than those with retrocochlear pathology. That is the concept. So it is by Jaeger. It is done by Jaeger first. The capacity of the patient to detect a 1 decibel increment in a 20 decibel suprathreshold tone. Even a small. So they say like snake ears. Okay, it's just moving like that. Snake doesn't have ears. In Telugu they say pamu chevulu. So just even for a small sound they are reacting. They say like that. So that is a cochlear pathology. They react better than retrocochlear pathology. So it is performed at 1000 to 4000 hertz. The pro forma of doing it is not your work. Okay, it is audiologist's work. You have to remember the concept. So cochlear pathology CC is being done 20 decibels above and it is given for 2 minutes. So what is the interpretation? So for every 5 seconds there is 1 decibel increment in the carrier tone. 20 such blips are given. It is multiplied by 5 gives CC score. So CC score is 70 to 100% in cochlear pathology. CCC, remember CCC, this is very important. Cochlear pathology 70 to 100% cochlear lesion. 65 to 25% is a questionable significance. 0 to 20%, if it is there, after multiplied by 5, it is normal or conductive hearing loss or retrocochlear pathology. So CC is for cochlear pathology, 70 to 100%. Remember that. As you could see. So the CC test is done. Carrier tone is present at 20 decibel supra threshold. Every 5 seconds, 1 decibel increment is given. It stays for 200 milliseconds. The rise of time in the increment and the decay in time in 50 milliseconds, as you could see. So the rise of time and decay time requires 50 milliseconds. And by the way, you are going to increase. So these things are perceived by the cochlea more better than retrocochlear. Therefore, CC test is done for cochlear pathology. Limitations of CC is it requires active cooperation and test has to be done at 20 decibel above, wherein above severe deafness cannot be tested. So whenever there is a severe deafness above 85 decibel hearing loss, you have to go for something called as ASSR, auditory steady state response. Very severe deafness can be tested by what test? Auditory steady state response. It's not USSR, it is ASSR. So auditory steady state response. So in the case of failure of any other test, more than 85 decibel hearing loss, if there is a problem, you have to test means you have to go for ASSR, which we are not going to deal it today. So ASSR is not included in our test today. So mild sensorineural hearing loss may not show a high CC score even if deafness is present. So there are limitations for every test which you need not remember in details, but you should have basic idea. It's something called as Bekasi audiometry. You are taking a cell phone and taking a selfie nowadays. Previously, they used to put a camera and then run and then put a time and then go for a selfie. Now you are taking a camera. The same way, pure tone audiometry is done by self. It is called as Bekasi's audiometry. So continuous and you have got 2 types of graphs. So continuous graph is one thing. It is not done nowadays, of course. So continuous graph and pulse tracing. Continuous and pulsed overlap. It is normal and conductive hearing loss, type 1. Continuous and pulsed overlap till 1000. It is in cochlear. So type 1 is normal and conductive hearing loss. Type 2 is cochlear hearing loss. Type 3 is retrocochlear hearing loss. Type 4 is also retrocochlear hearing loss. Type 5 is noise-induced hearing, non-organic hearing loss. I'm sorry. This is a malingering. Type 5 is malingering. Continuous is about the pulse tone. So once again repeating, going back. Type 1 is normal and conductive. Type 2, wherein continuous and pulsed overlap up to 1000, seen in cochlear. Type 3 is seen in retrocochlear. Just remember the names like the retrocochlear or neural. Type 4 is seen in retrocochlear. Once again, it is not mentioned over here. And type 5 is seen in non-organic hearing loss. What is non-organic hearing loss? So there is no problem at all, but there is hearing loss. So that is a malingering. What is NOHL? Malingering, non-organic hearing loss. What is NIHL? Noise-induced hearing loss. Noise-induced hearing loss is different from non-organic hearing loss. You should have idea about it. Next test in the battery is BERA, Brainstem Evoked Response Audiometry, ABR or BAEP, Brainstem Auditory Evoked Potential. Suppose, for example, yesterday a tiger came, the cheetah came onto the road. So, for example, the cheetah was there inside a bone, inside a room, and you are disturbing with a stone. It tries to react. Is it or not? The cheetah reacts or lion reacts within the bone, and then it shouts, growls, whatever it is. In the same way, our auditory pathway, like E. coli ME, as you know, E. coli ME till the level of auditory cortex is like a lion. When you are trying to disturb it with sound, it gives away some waves. That is what is evoked response audiometry. Evoked response. That means you are evoking the auditory pathway. What are the examples of evoked response audiometry? Number one is autoacoustic emissions for cochlea. Autoacoustic emissions for cochlea, OAE for cochlea, and for retrocochlea it is the BERA. For retrocochlea, this is the cochlea and this is the retrocochlea. Retrocochlea is the BERA. So what do you do in this BERA? So I'll try to tell you. BERA is like you're giving tone clicks or bips. Okay, 10 seconds, first 10 microseconds, first 10 seconds, whatever you are going to have it is called as early latency response. Okay, more than that it is called as middle latency response. More than it is called as late latency response. In first 10 milliseconds you will be having 7 waves. 10 milliseconds you have 7 waves. So the electrical activity of it's something like a ECG, that is the heart is giving some electrical activity, the nervous system is also giving some electrical activity, like called as EEG. Of course EEG is different and then this BERA is different. There are differences which we are not going to details of it. It is not our task now. So we are going to say that there are 7 waves in first 10 milliseconds. Far field recording audiometry. Even without the permission of the patient, that is without the concentration of the patient, you can record this BERA. That is what is the specialty of this BERA. So what you are putting 3 electrodes, like you are putting like vertical electrode, right, left electrode you are putting, and you are recording 7 waves in first 10 milliseconds. Most important wave is fifth wave. Fifth wave, remember there are 2 points in BERA you have to know. Fifth wave, and then third wave, and then first wave. Okay, so fifth wave is very important. How does it produce means they are called as Jewett bumps. So what they say is Jewett bumps from 8th nerve, pons and midbrain. It says whether the auditory pathway is intact or not. It does not give any information more than that. Whether the auditory pathway is functioning or not, it will give the information. But because of that only, it is not a substitute for other audiological tests. It is not enough for us when you are eating a meal. It's not enough if curry is present. It's not enough if chutney is present. If it's not enough if the dal is present. It's not enough if it is the curd is present. Rice is present. Everything should be there. Then only it will become a full meal. In the same way, all the tests should be there to have a basic idea about a patient. Not only PTA, not only impedance audiometry, not only where every test has got its own importance, like a part in a meal. Okay. So electrodes are placed, I already told you, their clicks are given, maximum 11.5 clicks are given. Clicks are given and then the rays that the waves that are coming out are catched. Okay, so I told you 7 waves in 10 milliseconds. Don't read all those things. You will get confused. 1, 3 and 5 are most important. What do you see for that? Latency, absolute latency, interwave latency, interpeak latency, amplitude. Absolute latency is a latency, the time taken for example, you are giving a sound, the one wave is coming from the particular part of a auditory system. From E coli, MA. What are the parts that are showing this one? So 8th nerve distal part, 8th nerve proximal part, C is the cochlear nucleus. Okay, O is the superior alveolar complex, LI is the lateral lemniscus and inferior colliculus, and M is the medial geniculate body, and then auditory cortex. So as you know, every part of the auditory system is giving one wave. For example, wave 5 is generated from lateral lemniscus and inferior colliculus. The production is not 100% perfect, but it is believed that it is from lateral lemniscus and inferior colliculus. In a tumor like acoustic neuroma, for example, this wave 5 is happen something like that. You have got some problem in some of the waves. You can say that some problem is there in one of the parts of this auditory system. There is a concept of BERA actually. So when you are giving BERA, as you could see, so these are the milliseconds. In the first 10 milliseconds, you are getting these many waves from different parts of the auditory system, like wave 1, 2, 3, 4. So I was speaking about the absolute latency, interwave latency, interpeak latency. Absolute latency is for the latency for a particular wave. For example, first wave, this is the absolute latency is the time taken. So that is 2 seconds. Interwave latency. So first and second, if you calculate the difference is the 2 and 3, that is 1 millisecond. Interwave latency. Interpeak latency. Okay, interpeak, that is the interpeak latency which I was telling you. Interwave latency is time taken by 1 and time taken by 2. That is 3 seconds and 1.9 seconds. That is 1.1 seconds is the interwave latency. So interpeak latency. Interaural latency also there. For 1 year and other year, if you compare 2 waves, interaural latency. Interwave latency, interpeak latency. These are all the latencies. You can just write the word latencies. You can see this. Based on that, you can calculate. Wave 1 has got less than 2 milliseconds latency. Wave 2, you have to add 1 for this particular latency. Add 1 for this particular latency. 1 has got 2.8, 3 has got 3.8, that is less than 4. 4 has got less than 5. 5 has got less than 6. So if there is any prolongation, for example, if it is taking more time to give a wave, there is some problem in that particular area that you should understand. Interwave latency, as I already told you, so 1 and 3, 3 and 5. For example, I am telling you, you need not remember these words, figures and all. So wave 1, wave 3, wave 5, interval, you are calculating between different waves. So this is a calculation for the audiologists which are not much bothered about it. You have an idea about interwave latency, absolute latency, interpeak latency. So amplitude ratios also you can calculate like that. Okay. So how do you interpret? For example, wave 1 is smaller, delayed or absent may indicate a cochlear lesion, as wave 1 is E coli, as we were telling AE, proximal part of the cochlea, distal cochlea, and you have got this wave 1. Wave 5 is the most important, it indicates the upper brainstem lesion. 1 to 3 interpeak latency prolongation may indicate lower brainstem lesion. So you write down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, write down E coli MA, wherever there is a problem you can say. 3 to 5 is important because prolonged upper brainstem lesion. 1 to 5 prolongation may involve whole brainstem. So 1 to 5, as you could see, E coli, all the brainstem may be involved. Shortening up. So these are all giving a basic idea that there is some problem in the auditory pathway. So in many clinics, 1 to 3 interwave latency beyond 3 minutes is considered as abnormal. So these are all the calculations that are there. 1 to 5 interwave latency, if you can see, it is seen in vestibular schwannoma. There is some tumor called as acoustic neuroma or vestibular schwannoma, wherein this BERA is useful. BERA is useful for acoustic neuroma. We are going to deal that, we will tell then also. BERA is to be useful for acoustic neuroma or vestibular schwannoma. The other name for acoustic neuroma is vestibular schwannoma. There are 4 nerves, is it or not? Facial nerve, superior vestibular nerve, inferior vestibular nerve, and cochlear nerve, like in the internal auditory canal like this. So superior vestibular nerve more commonly and inferior vestibular nerve more commonly, of which inferior is more common than superior. This tumor is growing, for example, towards the brainstem. Then that is going to compress this and then it is going to cause some problem in the BERA. Just remember like that. So that is, we are not going to discuss the details of this. As you could see, wave 5 latency greater than 6.1 or 8 nerve tumor should be considered. I told you wave 5 should be less than 6. Is it or not? 5 plus 1 is 6 is. If it is more than 6, then there is some problem in the particular wave 5 generator. That is lateral lemniscus. That you should think that there is some tumor over there. So what are the uses of BERA? So because it can screen infants for congenital deafness. So BERA is helpful for retrocochlear region. Cochlear region, what is useful? OAE is useful. So it determines the threshold. You can also measure the threshold of hearing like in a pure tone audiometry. It can diagnose the retrocochlear pathology, particularly acoustic neuroma. So brainstem pathology, because it is dealing with brainstem, you can go for brainstem pathology also. So like multiple sclerosis, spontaneous tumors, brainstem strokes, etc., etc. What are the uses of BERA? That is to monitor the 8th nerve intraoperatively. So intraoperatively you can monitor the 8th cranial nerve. It can also help to confirm the brainstem death, because brainstem is helpful. Brainstem whether it is working or not, brainstem death or brain death you can confirm it. You can rule out the malingers because the patient's cooperation is not needed. Prognosis in the neurological disorders like multiple sclerosis. So these are the uses of BERA. Now it is about acoustic otoacoustic emissions. So BERA has dealt till this part. So that is retrocochlear pathology. Otoacoustic emissions are Kemp echoes for cochlear pathology. I'm just going to deal the superficial part of it. So Thomas Gold has discovered that cochlea is going to give some waves called as acoustic signals. That is otoacoustic emissions. So Kemp waves they are called as. So otoacoustic emissions are from outer hair cells. Outer hair cells. That is more important. They are called as Kemp echoes or cochlear echoes. It is a pre-neural phenomenon. Even before the nerve has started, there is some phenomenon in the cochlea called as pre-neural phenomenon. Outer hair cells helpful for function of cochlea. So in neural pathway that is of not use, in only this cochlear pathway that is of use. That is neural pathway you are using the BERA, cochlear pathway you are using the OAE. So how they are produced, they result from cochlea and propagated to the middle ear. They come out from the cochlea to the outside, you can capture them in the canal. So quiet room it is done, requires 15 minutes. Probe is placed in the canal, not painful and non-invasive. You can do it for children by birth. If children is put done OAE, you could see the whether cochlea is functioning or not. In children, if you do BERA, you can see whether the retrocochlea is functioning or not. So what are the types of autoacoustic emissions are evoked autoacoustic emissions and spontaneous. Spontaneous autoacoustic emissions are absent in few of the normal people also. Okay, evoked means you are once again evoking the auditory pathway. So evoked is having three types like transient, distortion product and stimulus frequency. Transient, distortion product and stimulus frequency. What are the three types of evoked was? Transient, distortion product and stimulus frequency. So what are the other the original types of OAE like spontaneous autoacoustic emissions? They come by themselves, absent in 0.5% of the population, and evoked autoacoustic emissions like transient, distortion product, and stimulus frequency. So spontaneous OAE are called as SOAE. They are absent in 50% of the normal patients, and they can be seen in if hearing loss is not more than 30 decibels. It is more in female screening test. SOAE's average intensity can be calculated. So in adults it is 3 to 2.6 dB, and in infants it is 8.5 dB, which is an average one. And adults 3000 to 2000, and infants 3400 frequency are used. The spontaneous OAEs, as you could see. Transient OAEs, we are giving some sound. So evoked OAE, they are evoked ones. Once again, you are throwing a stone on the lion, called as auditory system. So transient and brief stimulus, click stimuli are present at 85 decibels above SPL. Click evoked OAE, they are best for the neonatal screening. When the child is born, it is something called as universal neonatal hearing screening program. After birth, whether the child is able to hear or not, everybody in this world is supposed to do neonatal screening for hearing, whether it is or not. If it is not hearing properly, you have to repeat the test after 1 week. If it is not hearing properly, you have to repeat after 1 month, and then you have to confirm along with a BERA, and you have to go for something called as cochlear implant surgery. Because if hearing is not heard in the early ages of life, like 1 or 2 years, the patient cannot speak, they will become deaf and mute. So further neonatal screening program, TOAE is the best thing. Okay. So transient evoked autoacoustic emissions. There is nothing much to read in this because it's the duty of the audiologist. You should have a concept behind this. And distortion product OAE. Two tones are given, therefore distortion is occurring. 2F1 minus F2 is the one which is the formula that is useful to see. It is helpful for early cochlear damage in ototoxicity in noise-induced hearing loss. 2F1, F2, remember, early cochlear damage in noise-induced hearing loss and ototoxicity. So DPOAE is useful for noise-induced hearing loss and ototoxicity. TOAE is useful for neonatal screening. So OAE, spontaneous OAE is generally done for knowing a normal person or not. So TOAE, if you see F1 and F2, you should say that it is a distortion product autoacoustic emissions. And third one, that is evoked one in the third one is the stimulus frequency OAE. So in finding the hearing loss of 1000 and 2000 hertz and two other OAEs at 5000 hertz. Okay, it is helpful in high frequency hearing loss. Stimulus frequency hearing loss OAE is for high frequency hearing loss. So you should have transient is useful for for the neonatal screening, and this particular evoked ones which distortion product is useful for drugs and noise induced hearing loss. D for D, you can remember D for D. So distortion product is for drugs, and then stimulus frequency is for high frequency hearing loss. Yes, these are the three uses that you can remember. Interpretation, whether pass or not, I already told you. Refer back to BERA and then repeat after 2 weeks once again. Uses of OAE, so you can see neonates, as I told you, the transient hearing, transient evoked autoacoustic emissions. So you can have it like neonatal hearing loss, you can calculate. Differences between cochlear, because autoacoustic emissions is for cochlear and the BERA is for retrocochlear, you can see that early ototoxicity can be detected, and early case of noise-induced hearing loss can be detected. Monitoring the Meniere's disease. So Meniere's disease, there is a cochlear pathology. Meniere's disease is nothing but a endolymphatic hydrops with a lot of swelling inside the cochlear walls. So cochlear pathology leading to changes in the OAE. You can manage the cases of tinnitus. You can do go for OAE, rule out malingering. So whether the person is every malingerer has got a lot of tests. Intraoperative monitoring also has got some use. Pitfalls is that it does not guarantee a normal neural pathway which needs BERA. So OAE tests only the cochlea, not the retrocochlea. What is OAE suppression? So there is something called as OAE suppression. So olivocochlear bundle. If you take the superior olivary nucleus and then medial olivocochlear bundles, this suppression is lost in the case of this auditory neuropathy. There is one pathology called as auditory neuropathy. So there are two pathologies which we read in the retrocochlear pathology. What is the first one is the acoustic neuroma, I already told you, and second one is the auditory neuropathy. Auditory neuropathy is the nerve-related deafness. Nerve-related deafness, this part is not the cochlea, this is the nerve-related deafness, wherein OAE suppression test helpful in the case of finding the pathway of OAE suppression is from external ear canal to the superior olivary complex and different medial olivocochlear bundles back to cochlea. It suppresses the evoked OAE and finally back to the ear canal. So if they are absent, then you can say they are suppressed by this OAE suppression is done by another acoustic signal. Then it can be called as OAE suppression test seen in auditory neuropathy, especially in the olivocochlear bundle related issues. Okay. Next, one more thing is tone decay test. So we have done the BERA, we have done the OAE, we have done the CC. So next is the threshold tone decay test. You have to remember TTD, threshold tone decay test for retrocochlear pathology. TTD is for retrocochlear pathology. It helps in understanding the nerve fatigue, retrocochlear lesions like Wedensky's peripheral nerve inhibition. For example, what is Wedensky's peripheral nerve inhibition means? So when you stretch a nerve, necrotize a short stretch of nerve at one end, an electrophysiological measurement is done. First few impulses will pass through the necrotized nerve. So a damaged person, for example, a batsman gets injured, he can hit one or two boundaries, not more than that, is it or not? The same way, he can work for he can listen the few sounds. Later on, it gets become a tone decay. There is a tone decay. So that is what is called as threshold tone decay. For example, a sound is given, patient responds first initially. Later on, after you give more amount of sounds, he cannot respond. That is what is. If it is found that the tone has been raised by 30 decibels above the threshold, the patient unable to hear. Even after giving high sound, also patient unable to hear. So then it is called as tone decay that is present. So what are the methods that are useful? Green's method, Osland, Knopfinger's method, and Rosenberg's method. Of course, we are not going to go into details of these methods. So supra-threshold adaptation test is helpful for the people who are above 110 decibel hearing loss. So among all these tests, Carrat's test for threshold tone decay is the most reliable. So when you are giving some sound, so decay is normal, 0 to 5 decibels. So when you see severe, it is highly suggestive of retrocochlear pathology. Threshold tone decay is more commonly highly suggestive of retrocochlear pathology. Decay is normal, 0 to 5 decibel increment only present means it is normal or conducive hearing loss. Mild decay, it is a cochlear pathology. Moderate decay is 20 to 25, but whereas severe decay, if it is present, you can call it as retrocochlear pathology. So Carrat's threshold tone decay. Threshold tone decay is helpful for retrocochlear pathology. So after learning all these things, what is that you are able to understand? The cochlear pathology and retrocochlear pathology. There are two things that you should have idea about this cochlear pathology and retrocochlear pathology. I already told you all these tests will try to discriminate between this. Is very important table. You can take a photograph and then you can preserve it. Pure tone audiometry in cochlear pathology, it says sensory neural hearing loss. In retrocochlear pathology also it says sensory neural hearing loss. That is both the lines are falling down. Speech discrimination score is very poor. We cannot understand the speech in the case of retrocochlear pathology. Speech cannot be understood in retrocochlear pathology, whereas speech can be understood in cochlear. In cochlear pathology, speech can be understood better. I told you rollover phenomenon is present in the case of retrocochlear pathology. Rollover phenomenon, that is goes to a peak and then falls down. That is rollover phenomenon is present in the case of retrocochlear pathology. Whereas in cochlear pathology, rollover phenomenon is absent. But what is present in cochlear pathology is the recruitment. Recruitment is present in cochlear pathology. That is abnormal growth of loudness. This is a cochlear recruitment is present. This is the retrocochlear rollover phenomenon is present. CC score is over 70% for the cochlear pathology. Minute increments can be heard by cochlea. Therefore, CC score is high in the case of cochlear pathology. How do you remember that? CCC. CC is short increment sensitivity index. It is seen in, once again, is seen in C. So cochlear pathology. Its threshold tone decay test is less than 25 decibels in the case of cochlear pathology, but threshold tone decay. Threshold tone decay, tone decays earlier in the case of retrocochlear pathology, it needs more than 25 decibels. That is retrocochlear pathology. Stapedial reflex is present in the case of cochlear pathology, but absent in the case of retrocochlear pathology. Why? Because eighth cranial nerve is one of the part of this particular reflex arc. Therefore, it is absent. Stapedial reflex decay test is normal here. Stapedial reflex decay. Stapedial reflex related things are abnormal in the case of retrocochlear pathology. So, by the way, this almost ends the particular auditory tests which are important. There are some central auditory tests like staggered spondylic word test, staggered spondylic word test that is present. So that is not of much importance, but the name has to be remembered. Staggered spondylic word test has to be done. Next, otherwise, you are going to do one more test called as electrocochleography. What is electrocochleography? So, like you are putting a probe inside towards the cochlea and recording the cochlear micropotential, summating potentials, action potential, CM, SP, AP. Okay, CM by AP ratio should be normally 1:3. CM by AP ratio normally 1:3. But cochlear microphonics are high. Because cochlea is irritated, it shows more amount of burst called as cochlear microphonics. If it is irritated more, it gives more and more, therefore it dominates the action potential. So cochlear microphonics dominate the action potential in the case of Meniere's disease. When we are dealing the Meniere's disease, we'll be dealing the cochlear microphonics and then summating potentials. That is called as electrocochleography. What is the other test which I have left here is the auditory steady state response, which I did not put in the PowerPoint. So auditory steady state response, so steady state response wherein higher frequency loss, higher intensity loss is there means you can go for auditory steady state response. So this, let me summarize all of the audiology right now. Your tone audiometry. So normally audiometry is divided into subjective and objective. Subjective is the patient has to respond. Objective means the patient need not respond. Subjective is pure tone audiometry. For example, you have got pure tone audiometry. Whereas objective is you have got impedance audiometry. In pure tone audiometry, you give pure tone sounds. Okay. Tell whether sensorineural or conductive hearing loss or mixed hearing loss. In speech audiometry, of course, the speech audiometry, the patient has to react. So patient has to react and give the analysis. Speech audiometry, you have to go for speech reception threshold and speech discrimination score. You have to go for phonetically balanced words. So PB max curve you are going to say. You are going to have the rollover phenomenon in the case of retrocochlear pathology, and then you have got a plateau in the case of cochlear pathology, in the case of speech audiometry or PB curve. Okay, and then after that you have done what all the tests that you have done is the evoked response audiometry is like evoked audiometry that you are evoking the auditory system. The example is the BERA, brainstem evoked response audiometry. Brainstem evoked response audiometry is given for retrocochlear pathology. Example is auditory neuropathy and also your acoustic neuroma, auditory neuropathy and acoustic neuroma. Okay, that is the one thing that you have to remember. And then after this BERA has got 7 waves in 10 milliseconds. So fifth wave is the most important. Okay, BERA is for the retrocochlear pathology. Autoacoustic emissions is for the cochlear pathology. Autoacoustic emissions, as you know, so spontaneous and evoked autoacoustic emissions. Spontaneous and evoked. Spontaneous one is absent in 50% of the patients. 50% of normal subjects also. Okay, evoked ones are transient distortion product stimulus frequency audiometry. So transient is for the neonates hearing loss screening, and distortion product is for ototoxicity noise induced hearing loss, and then there is stimulus frequency is for the higher frequency which you are going to test the person particular for higher frequency hearing loss. One more higher frequency higher intensity hearing loss is testing done is the auditory steady state response. So these are all names that you have to try to remember and relate to your particular hearing loss. The one more thing that is being done is CC. So CC is for short increment sensitivity index done for cochlear pathology. CC score is high in cochlear pathology, more than 70%. And threshold tone decay. So threshold tone decay, as you know. So threshold tone decay, as it is seen in the case of your retrocochlear pathology. Threshold tone decay is for retrocochlear pathology. And you have got the recruitment, alternate binaural loudness balance test. That is the ladder gram for the case of your recruitment, which is seen in the case of cochlear pathology. So examples of cochlear pathology are like Meniere's disease. For example, you have got ototoxicity because of cochlear problem. Okay, those can be given as example for cochlear pathology. Retrocochlear pathology, you have got the acoustic neuroma, auditory neuropathy, etc. etc. I hope most of these things are understood by you people. I hope you can have any doubts when you are there. Is anybody there right now? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
You're able to say, you can just repeat the cochlear and retrocochlear. Put the slide like that, you can read it out once. Hello? Hello? I'm expecting a reply. You can read out the slide that is present over there. You can just see and read the slide, please. Chanakya?
Pure tone audiometry, cochlear sensorineural hearing loss, retrocochlear sensorineural hearing loss.
Both are showing sensory neural hearing loss and pure tone audiometry. Okay. Next.
Speech discrimination score less than 90%, very poor.
So speech, you can discriminate the speech in cochlear pathology, but in retrocochlear pathology like acoustic neuroma, you cannot understand the speech properly. Next.
Rollover phenomenon, in cochlear it's absent and in retrocochlear it's present.
So rollover means the curve is going up and then falling down. That is retrocochlear. In cochlear, it is like a plateau that is present in the curve. Okay. Next.
Recruitment, recruitment is present in cochlear and absent in retrocochlear.
So you are going to recruit many auditory fibers in the cochlear pathology. Example, Meniere's disease, but recruitment is absent in retrocochlear pathology. So don't remember R for R. Rollover is for R, that is retrocochlear. Recruitment is for cochlear pathology. Next.
SISI, cochlear it's over 70% and in retrocochlear it's 0 to 20%.
So CC score, that is short increment sensitivity index score, CCC. CCC for cochlear, higher in cochlear, lower in retrocochlear. Next.
Threshold tone decay test, cochlear it's less than 25 dB and in retrocochlear it's greater than 25 dB.
As you could see, TTD is for retrocochlear pathology. Threshold tone decay is for retrocochlear pathology. It is more than 25 decibels in retrocochlear pathology. Example for retrocochlear pathology is acoustic neuroma. Next.
Coming to stapedial reflex, cochlear it's present and retrocochlear it's absent.
Yeah, and also stapedial reflex when you take, there is a problem in the 8th cranial nerve in retrocochlear pathology, not the cochlea. So 8th cranial nerve is problematic. It shows absent stapedial reflex because stapedial reflex has got reflex arc of 7th cranial nerve and here with the cochlear nerve, that is 8th cranial nerve, and you react with the facial nerve, that is 7th cranial nerve, that is contraction of the stapedial muscle. Next.
Stapedial reflex decay test, cochlear it's normal and retrocochlear it's absent.
Okay, so stapedial reflex, once again, there is a problem in the nerve, therefore the reflex decay, just remember like that. So I think you can take a photograph of this just like that and then put it in the group once again because it's very important. Everybody has to know the differences between these two and this is asked very many times. Okay, so I hope you got the understanding of all this audiology. So I have dealt in detail about all these audiology issues. Which is required for your level. You should understand those. You read in your textbook, you will be able to understand much of this. But you have to read it recurrently because it is very difficult. You are not going to do it daily. You are supposed to remember it for examination sake. So read once or twice. If any questions are there, you can put it in the group, and then you can have this assignment as you and you have everybody has to by heart this cochlear and retrocochlear pathology. Put it in the group, and this table has to be remembered by everyone, including everyone in the class. Not even a single person should forget this. Okay, I hope I am able to be understood about this particular audiology topics. Okay, any doubts are there, you can ask. Hello. Hello. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, done. So this audiology is done, and the next class will be about the next parts, maybe about the hearing loss, and also maybe about the vertigo and all. The sessions are already planned. We'll try to go accordingly. Try to read this and then try to keep this in mind. I think the class can be ended by this note. Okay. Thank you very much.